My dear brothers and sisters, Islam is a religion of mercy, compassion and generosity. But Islam is also a religion of wisdom, balance and accountability. Allah does not want us to become harsh people, but He also does not want us to become people who are emotionally manipulated, spiritually drained, or unknowingly supporting wrongdoing. Helping others is a noble act, but helping without wisdom can sometimes lead to harm both for you and for the one you are trying to help. That is why Allah, through the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, teaches us when to give and when to step back. Let me speak to you honestly, because many believers suffer silently, feeling guilty for saying no, feeling sinful for setting boundaries, and feeling afraid that refusing help means they lack compassion. This is not true. Sometimes refusing to help is an act of faith, not cruelty. 1. Do not help those who persist in open sin without regret. My dear brothers and sisters, it is extremely important to understand this point properly, because many sincere believers suffer confusion here. Islam is not a religion that ignores human weakness. Allah knows that we are not angels. People slip, people fall, people make mistakes. A person who commits a sin privately, feels ashamed of it, regrets it in their heart, and keeps turning back to Allah again and again is someone who deserves compassion, patience, encouragement, and sincere support. That person is fighting a battle within themselves, and Allah loves those who struggle to return to Him even after falling. However, there is a very dangerous difference between struggling with sin and being comfortable with sin. When a person commits wrongdoing openly, displays it without shame, speaks proudly about it, defends it, promotes it to others, and shows no regret or fear of Allah, then the situation changes completely. At that point, continuing to help them is no longer mercy. It becomes harmful, both for them and for you. Helping such a person does not bring them closer to Allah. Instead, it sends a silent but powerful message that Allah's limits are not serious, that disobedience has no consequences, and that repentance is unnecessary. When you support such a person financially, emotionally, or socially, you may believe you are being kind, but in reality, you are strengthening their arrogance. You are making their sin easier, more comfortable, and more normalized. Islam never teaches us to normalize disobedience in the name of love or loyalty. Real mercy is not about protecting someone from discomfort. Real mercy is about protecting their soul from destruction. Caring only about how a person feels in the moment while ignoring where they are heading in the akhirah is not compassion. It is short-sightedness. Many soft-hearted believers continue helping such individuals with the hope that kindness alone will change them. They say to themselves, maybe if I support them more, they will eventually reflect. But in many cases, the opposite happens. The sin becomes bolder, the attitude becomes more careless, and the helper becomes emotionally drained, spiritually confused, and sometimes even tempted to accept or imitate the same behavior. Islam teaches us that good intentions are important, but results also matter. If your help leads to more sin, more arrogance, and more distance from Allah, then wisdom demands that you pause and step back. This does not mean you become harsh, cruel, or judgmental. Islam never teaches harshness. You can still advise with gentleness, speak with wisdom, and remind with sincerity. You can still make dua for that person in the depth of the night, asking Allah to soften their heart and guide them back. But at the same time, you must refuse to enable open wrongdoing. You must set boundaries that protect your iman and uphold the limits set by Allah. Stepping back in such situations is not hatred, arrogance, or abandonment. It is clarity. It is choosing obedience to Allah over emotional pressure. It is understanding that sometimes the most loving action is to stop supporting behavior that is destroying a person's relationship with their Lord. May Allah grant us hearts that are compassionate yet firm, gentle yet wise, and strong enough to stand for truth without fear or guilt. Ameen. 2. Do not help those who mock the religion of Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, this is a matter that requires deep awareness, because mockery of religion is often disguised today as humor, intelligence, or freedom of expression. Islam teaches us patience, calmness, and good character, but Islam never teaches us to accept humiliation of Allah's religion in the name of being modern or tolerant. There is a difference between guiding someone who is ignorant and supporting someone who deliberately mocks what Allah has honored. When a person laughs at prayer, makes jokes about the Quran, ridicules hijab, belittles scholars, or treats Islamic teachings as backward or unnecessary, this is not harmless speech. This is a reflection of what exists in the heart. Allah warns us in the Quran about those who mock His signs and reminds us not to sit comfortably among such behavior as if it is normal. When you continue to help, support, or stand silently with those who mock the deen, you may think you are being polite, but in reality, you are slowly weakening your own sense of honor for Islam. Some people say, I don't agree with them, but I don't want to cause tension. My dear brothers and sisters, silence in such moments slowly trains the heart to accept disrespect. You may not notice it immediately, but over time, it reduces the seriousness of Allah's commands in your own life. What once felt wrong begins to feel normal, and what once caused discomfort begins to feel acceptable. This is how Iman weakens quietly. Helping someone who mocks the religion sends them a dangerous message. It tells them that they can insult what Allah loves and still receive your support, your time, your money, and your loyalty. This is not wisdom. This is surrender. Islam does not require us to argue, shout, or insult in return, but it does require us to maintain dignity and clear boundaries. Respect for Allah and His Messenger Sallam is not optional for a believer. This does not mean you treat such people with hatred or cruelty. Islam teaches adab even in disagreement. You can remain calm, polite, and respectful while still making it clear that your faith is not something to be mocked. You can withdraw your support without drama. You can distance yourself without arrogance. You can protect your Iman without becoming harsh. Remember, my brothers and sisters, the honor of Islam begins in your heart. If you allow mockery to pass without concern, your heart slowly becomes numb. Protect your faith, protect your respect for Allah, and never feel guilty for refusing to help those who openly ridicule the very guidance that gives your life meaning. Allah is Al-Aziz, the most honored, and the believer carries that honor within them. May Allah grant us strength, clarity, and unwavering respect for His religion. Ameen. 3. Do not help those who take advantage of your kindness. My dear brothers and sisters, Islam encourages generosity, kindness, and helping others. But Islam never commands us to destroy ourselves emotionally, financially, or spiritually in the name of being good. There are people who recognize a soft heart and see it as an opportunity, not a blessing. They do not appreciate your kindness. They consume it. Understanding this difference is essential, because unchecked kindness can slowly turn into quiet exploitation. When a person only remembers you when they need something, when every conversation ends with a request, when your presence is valued only for what you can provide, this is not brotherhood and it is not sincere friendship. A true relationship in Islam is based on mutual care, respect, and dua for one another, not constant taking from one side and constant giving from the other. If someone disappears when you need help, ignores your struggles, and shows no concern for your well-being, then continuing to help them will slowly drain your strength and peace. Many believers feel guilty setting boundaries because they fear displeasing Allah, but Allah does not reward being taken advantage of. The Prophet ﷺ taught us balance in all matters. He was the most generous of people, yet he was never careless with responsibility. He gave where there was benefit and withheld where harm would result. Islam does not praise a person who gives until they are broken. Islam praises wisdom alongside generosity. When you continue to help someone who takes advantage of your kindness, you may unintentionally train them to depend on you instead of trusting Allah, working for themselves, or taking responsibility for their own lives. This is not help, it is dependency. Over time, resentment grows in your heart, sincerity fades, and even acts of charity begin to feel heavy. This is a sign that boundaries are missing. Setting boundaries does not mean becoming cold or selfish. It means being honest, fair, and clear. You can still make dua for such people, still wish them well, and still offer guidance. but you must protect your own dignity and mental well-being. Saying no at the right time can prevent greater harm later. My brothers and sisters, Allah loves those who give for His sake, but He also loves justice and balance. Your kindness is a trust from Allah, not something for others to misuse. Use it wisely, protect it carefully, and never feel ashamed for refusing to be taken advantage of. May Allah grant us hearts that are generous yet strong, giving yet wise, and compassionate without being exploited. Ameen. 4. Do not help those who spread corruption and harm. My dear brothers and sisters, this is a warning that Allah mentions repeatedly in the Quran, because corruption does not always appear in an obvious form. Sometimes it comes loudly through clear dhulm and injustice, and sometimes it comes quietly, hidden behind smiles, words of concern, or claims of good intentions. Islam teaches us to look not only at what people say, but at what their actions produce. If a person constantly leaves damage behind them, then no matter how religious they sound, their behavior must be questioned. A person who spreads corruption may not see themselves as harmful. They may gossip, spread rumors, twist words, break families apart, create conflict between friends, or destroy someone's reputation, all while claiming they are just being honest or trying to help. But Islam does not accept harm disguised as honesty. The Prophet ﷺ warned us about the destructive power of the tongue and taught us that a believer is someone from whose words and actions others feel safe. When you support such a person, whether by defending them, funding them, repeating their words, or simply standing silently beside them, you become part of the harm. Even silence can strengthen corruption because it allows wrongdoing to continue without challenge. Allah warns us about people who claim to bring reform while spreading chaos. These are among the most dangerous individuals because their intentions confuse the hearts of others and normalize damage. Many believers get trapped in this situation because they focus on relationships instead of consequences. They say, but they are close to me, or they did not mean it, or I don't want to get involved. But my dear brothers and sisters, avoiding involvement does not always mean avoiding responsibility. If your support enables harm, then your distance becomes an act of worship. Islam does not teach us to assist in the breaking of homes, the spreading of hatred, or the destruction of trust. A believer is a source of peace, not tension. If someone repeatedly causes emotional, social, or spiritual damage wherever they go, wisdom demands that you withdraw your support. This does not require anger or confrontation. Sometimes the strongest statement is quiet distance. Protecting yourself from corrupt influence is not arrogance, it is obedience. It is safeguarding your heart, your reputation, and your akhirah. Allah sees the damage that others may not see yet, and Allah rewards those who choose peace over chaos and truth over loyalty to wrongdoing. My brothers and sisters, always remember that Islam stands for justice, mercy, and protection of others. Never help someone whose presence brings harm to people's lives, even if their words sound convincing. Choose clarity over confusion and righteousness over emotional attachment. May Allah protect us from being tools of harm and grant us wisdom to recognize corruption even when it is hidden behind pleasant words. Ameen. 5. Do not help those who refuse all advice. My dear brothers and sisters, advice in Islam is not a form of control or superiority. It is a gift, a sign of care, and an act of sincerity. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that religion itself is sincere advice given with wisdom, patience, and good intention. However, advice only benefits a heart that is willing to listen. When a person repeatedly refuses all advice, becomes irritated by reminders, and reacts with anger or arrogance when corrected, continuing to help them can become harmful rather than beneficial. There is a difference between someone who struggles to change and someone who completely rejects accountability. A struggling person may fall many times, but they still appreciate reminders and feel some level of humility. A person who refuses all advice, on the other hand, closes their heart completely. They do not want guidance, they want validation. They do not want improvement. They want comfort without responsibility. Helping such a person only strengthens their stubbornness. Many well-meaning believers exhaust themselves trying to save people who do not want to be saved. They repeat advice, make excuses, cover mistakes, and shield the person from consequences, thinking patience alone will eventually soften their heart. But Islam teaches us that guidance comes from Allah alone. You can deliver the message with kindness, but you cannot force acceptance. Even the Prophet ﷺ, the most merciful of mankind, was not responsible for the guidance of every soul. When you continue to help someone who rejects all advice, you may unintentionally delay their awakening. Consequences are sometimes the greatest teachers. Removing those consequences through constant support can prevent reflection and repentance. Islam does not ask us to protect people from the results of their own choices when those choices are made with arrogance and denial. Stepping back in such situations is not cruelty. It is realism. You can still make dua for them, asking Allah to open their heart and guide them to humility. You can still wish them well and avoid hostility. But you must stop carrying a burden that Allah did not place on your shoulders. Your responsibility is to advise sincerely, not to control outcomes. My dear brothers and sisters, do not measure your faith by how much you endure from people who refuse to listen. Measure it by your obedience to Allah and your honesty with yourself. Protect your peace, your energy, and your iman. Sometimes silence and distance speak louder than repeated words. May Allah grant us wisdom to know when to advise, when to be patient, and when to step back for the sake of our own hearts and their ultimate guidance. Ameen. 6. Do not help those who pull you away from Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, this is one of the most subtle yet most dangerous situations a believer can fall into, because it does not always look like sin at first. Sometimes the people who pull you away from Allah do not openly tell you to abandon your faith. Instead, they slowly weaken it, step by step, moment by moment, until you no longer recognize how far you have drifted. Islam teaches us that anything that distances the heart from Allah, even gradually, must be taken seriously. If helping someone causes you to delay or miss your salah, neglect your Quran, rush your worship, or feel too tired or distracted to remember Allah, then that help is costing you something priceless. Salah is not just an action, it is a lifeline between you and your Lord. Any relationship, responsibility, or commitment that repeatedly interferes with that connection must be questioned. No matter how close or important it seems, some people pull you away from Allah through constant negativity, complaints, and worldly obsession. Their conversations revolve only around money, status, entertainment, desires, or problems, leaving no room for remembrance, gratitude, or reflection. Spending too much time helping such people can slowly harden the heart. You may not feel it immediately, but over time, your iman becomes heavier, your motivation weakens, and worship begins to feel like a burden instead of a blessing. Others pull you away by normalizing what Allah has forbidden. They may say things like, everyone does this, or Allah is forgiving, or don't be too strict. While Allah is indeed most merciful, using His mercy as an excuse for continuous disobedience is a form of deception. When you help or support someone who constantly encourages this mindset, you may slowly begin to lower your own standards, compromise your values, and justify what you once avoided. My brothers and sisters, Islam does not teach us to cut off people harshly or abandon responsibilities carelessly, but Islam does teach us to protect our iman fiercely. Your relationship with Allah is the foundation of everything else in your life. If that foundation weakens, everything built upon it becomes unstable. No friendship, no family bond, no emotional attachment is worth losing your closeness to Allah. Helping others should increase your faith, not reduce it. It should bring you closer to Allah, not distract you from Him. If you notice that helping someone consistently leaves you spiritually empty, careless about worship, or distant from remembrance, then wisdom demands that you reassess your involvement. Stepping back in such cases is not selfishness. It is survival of the soul. Remember, my dear brothers and sisters, on the day of judgment, no one will answer for your prayers except you. No one will carry your iman except you. Choose relationships and responsibilities that strengthen your connection with Allah, not ones that slowly pull you away. May Allah grant us awareness to recognize spiritual danger early, strength to set boundaries when needed, and hearts that always choose Him above everything else. Ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, Helping others is one of the most beautiful acts of worship in Islam, but it must always be guided by wisdom, sincerity, and obedience to Allah. Islam does not ask you to close your heart, but it does ask you to open your eyes. Mercy without wisdom can turn into harm, and kindness without boundaries can slowly weaken your iman, drain your strength, and pull you away from the path of Allah. Never allow guilt to force you into supporting what Allah has forbidden. Never allow emotions to silence your conscience. Saying no to wrongdoing does not make you cruel, and stepping back from harmful people does not make you heartless. Sometimes the most loving decision is the one that feels uncomfortable, because it protects your soul and reminds others that Allah's limits matter. You are not responsible for changing every person. You are not accountable for fixing every heart. Guidance belongs to Allah alone. Your responsibility is to stand with truth, protect your iman, and act with balance. Help where help brings goodness, growth, and closeness to Allah. And step back where help strengthens sin, corruption, or injustice. Remember, my brothers and sisters,